Hey Nick, how's everything going?
Hey Josh, good to see you, man.
Yeah, nice seeing you as well.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how used we all got to these Zoom meetings?
I know.
It's like everywhere, you even with the big players, the news stations, any type of media, they're kind of like, and we got such and such coming in, live, and they're able to kind of just do that. We're like our own little TV station now, all of us, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. What you got going on? How was your weekend?
Wasn't bad. What did I do this week? I did something this weekend. There's always something every weekend, especially with
Yeah,
family.
yeah. No, it's
This
true.
weekend, what did we do? I, we did something. I can tell you that. If I remember, I'll bring it up. But I forget what we did. I know that we went. Oh! We had family down from Arizona. So we just basically chilled, ate. I cooked some or smoked some brisket. So did all that stuff.
Oh, that's good. What
Yeah,
do you smoke them in? You got like a little smoker?
yeah. So I have a Traeger. So I smoke it in the Traeger, and I'll do like steaks, burgers, everything in my Traeger. I love that thing.
Yeah, I gotta get me one of those. I the other day I went to get some ribs and
Oh,
by mistake I wanted to get pork ribs, and like do the whole barbecue thing and everything. I was all set. And then as I'm cooking these ribs, I'm like, that don't smell like no pork. Turns out they were lamb ribs, you
oh,
know?
nice.
Yeah, but it was so good. Because I did it like
Yeah.
I usually like to do it in a very, very small, because I don't have the Traeger, I just do it in my stove, right? But
Oh,
I
okay.
learned a trick. If you have a lot of time and some good spicing and maybe you marinate a little bit, and just over time, like I did like maybe a 4 hour cook on this one at like the lowest temperature I could get. But man, it was just falling off the bones. It was so
Oh,
good. But
wow.
the meat, the lamb, because I'm not used to it, I usually just, kind of eat a little bit of fish. Sometimes I do pork. The lamb was so rich and so thick and so juicy that
Yeah.
my stomach was freaking out. It was like, oh, that's a lot of fat. And even when I'm cooking it, I'm looking at the pot. I'm like, oh my God, it's like this much layer of lamb fat in
Oh,
the
wow.
pot. But it was good, man. I'm kind of thinking, I was about to go get pork again. I'm like, maybe I'll do lamb again. That was awesome.
Yeah, lemon is good. But have you ever tried bison?
Yeah, well, bison burgers, nothing like that. Like I haven't barbecued it or anything. Mainly bison burgers. I never had like a bison steak or anything.
Yeah, try bison steak. It tastes kind of like a steak, but it's very tender, and I highly recommend bison. Like, yeah,
Oh, it's more
I
tender than beef.
yeah, it's leaner. It's way leaner, and I did that with my wife because when we first got together, she was like, when it came to trying foods, like if I said like anything about buffalo or bison or something out of the ordinary, she'd be like, I don't know, no, I'm not eating that for dinner. So I went to the store, saw some bison steaks. I'm like, oh, you know what? So I just told her, hey, we're gonna have steaks for dinner, and I cooked some steaks, and she's like, man, these are way juicier than before. Like, are these expensive? I was like, no, it's bison. She's like, oh, I like bison then. I'm like, yeah. So that's how I
That's
kind of
cool.
up to like things like that. So she's very more open with food now. So
Yeah, it's those animals that kind of have that tangy animal like taste, like when you go hunt them
yeah,
down, like deer or maybe something else. Um, I've eaten duck before. It's not in the same category, but sometimes
yeah, I've
like
had duck,
rabbit,
and
yeah, like
it's not my
rabbit and
favorite.
stuff kind of has that tangy animal feel.
Yeah, very gamey.
Gamey for sure,
Yeah,
but all good, man. And I hear that bison has more protein than beef.
yeah, it's
It
less
packs more
fat.
protein.
Yep, less fat, more lean. So yeah,
Yeah.
how was your
Speaking of
weekend?
more lean, looks like we're in we're in a pretty lean times now.
Right? Oh man, a lot of cutbacks and ooh,
Yeah. Well, what seems like what's happening is the admission of severity of the economic situation with the inflation and a sort of recession has not been made yet, but
not
people
yet.
are already adjusting to it. They're feeling it in their budget.
Yeah,
They're making cutbacks and they're prioritizing things that are important. And so dealing in the field that you and I are in, homes are, it's the cornerstone of everything that you have. And so whenever you're stressed in that situation, that sort of becomes a priority. And so I believe you and I wanted to talk last week. We shot some messages back and forth, and we wanted to focus on, communicating with our clients that are having those financial difficulties, and how do we stay focused on the phones? How do we stay dedicated to the process? Because right now, more than ever, I believe the message is going to be received a little bit more with a little bit more attention. So when we're calling and we're saying, hey, would you like some cash for your house? We would buy it in as is condition. We would close quickly. I believe that those folks that are experiencing the shortage of, money, or maybe just a slowdown in their finances, they may be looking at it and saying, maybe I could scale down and weather the storm.
Yep.
Maybe I could go to a rental for a few and then bounce back, which for some people, it may seem like a catastrophe, oh my God, it's my house. I raised my kids in it, or I was going to raise my kids in it.
Yeah. But
reality is, like we spoke on the last podcast, only so many people buy it and stay in it, especially younger folks, right? If you bought in your mid to late 20s, or even earlier to mid 30s, and sometimes even 40s, you've got plenty of years to live, plenty of years to work. And so chances that you'll remain in that residence are slim to none. You either going to upgrade if the times are good and you're economically been fortified, or you might have to downgrade, and that's part of what we're really trying to do here is, look, this could be a thing that takes you down completely, if you stay in this house and you try to fight for it, although it's admirable, or this could be just something you look back, in 5 to 10 years and say, wasn't the best, situation. It did come with its share of stresses, but what helped was getting the cash when I needed it, on my terms, settling my debts and settling my whatever affairs that, I may need to do, and making sure I could keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Because like yourself, I've got 2 kids, you've got 2 kids. If I ever get into that type of spot where, look, you may not keep the house, but you're going to keep moving forward. Your kids are going to go to school. You're going to be able to maybe rent in a decent area and weather the storm and wait for a good opportune time to buy, perhaps when the rates are down, perhaps when the prices are a little bit more realistic. Yeah. And so that's something that I personally try to always keep in mind, that I think wholesaling in general tends to get this very bad rep where we seem to be speculating on people's misery. That's one of those things that I hear, like when I talk about things that I do with my family. Oh, so what is it? What's this wholesaling thing that you do? It's like, well, we're able to purchase homes at a really, really good price for us, and then we're able to make profit. Well, isn't that kind of like taking advantage of people in a bad spot? Sometimes I hear that. And you could look at it 2 ways, but the way that doesn't necessarily serve you as a wholesaler, I believe, is looking at it like you're doing a bad, naughty thing, like you're really ripping people off. Because it's going to come across on the call.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they like in this instance right now, is there's houses that are sitting 60, 90, 120 days. And if they got a notice of default from the mortgage company saying, hey, we're going to foreclose, or someone just lost their job and they're like, man, like I wish I just had some extra cash or something, like I'm willing to just go out and rent whatever it is to, I need something to get by. And that's, you could sell your house, but how long are you going to sit there for to sell it, and not everybody's house, is like decked out with all those upgrades and all that. That's only a slim amount of people. And what that's basically kind of what I'm seeing is that. And then also too is, people, they need that fast cash. So it's easier to, to sell to someone that says, hey, I could have someone close within 30 days or as soon as you want. Oh, you want 14 days? Cool. Yeah, we'll do it in 14 days. And, it's that utility of the ease of selling your property to get the money that you want. Not that you're taking way less for it. It's just, you kind of are in need of doing that, and
yeah, I feel like you're throwing your hat out into a different, I feel that it would help sellers to look at it like you're not in the same pool anymore as the MLS ready to move in, decked out properties that have the amazing pictures and virtual tours. You're in a different bucket, so to speak. You're in the bucket of the type of properties that need cash fast and more or less on your terms.
Yeah.
And so that's where, and it's, I think, the message, if you're upfront, like we always try to be, and we explain what happens, we don't gray area anything, they can get behind. It's like, oh, okay, I see. Well, it makes sense because you guys are a business, and I sort of am in the spot where, maybe I bought at a really good time and I still have a lot of room, even with our offer. Sometimes we'll look at approximate payoffs and we'll run title reports and we see, oh my God, look at what they bought for. Look how much they paid it down. Granted, they're not making the most money they would have made if they sold maybe last year and with a realtor, but they're still not in the spot where they're underwater,
Yep.
They're still in the spot where they're going to be netting some funds that could help them get through this tough time, because who knows how bad it's going to get. I don't, but I always try to be on the side of the positive. And so when these phone calls happen, I try not to focus and drill down too much into the negative aspect of the economic situation. But I want to say, look, this may not be optimal for you right now, but we do offer a solution, a speedy solution. We offer a solution that's more or less on your terms. You're able to almost pick your close date. You're able to know and have certainty that you could start packing your stuff in the boxes and not wait for your agent to bring yet another tour or yet another open house. And let's be honest, I think that most of the agents now that are showing your properties, it's a similar conversation. I don't believe buyers are trying to come at list anymore.
No. They're looking to get money knocked off, closing costs, and like I heard one story that somebody was able to go into contract with it was 10,000-15,000 under list. They asked for closing costs, and part of that closing cost was part of a buy down. And then once the repairs came back, it's a fence needed to be either repaired or replaced, and they got the whole fence replaced. And the listing agent's like, why are you doing this to my client? Like, why are you price gouging, or why are you gouging my client for all this? Well, you want to sell the property, right? Like that's kind of what has to happen. And it's the tables have turned, and like last year it was, if you're not going to buy this one, I have other buyers. Cool, I'll just put it right back on the market. I'll be right back in escrow next day. Now it's like, now the buyers are dictating it, where they're like, well, I want this, this, and this. And some listing agents on some of the offers I put in laughed. And the funny part is they call me back a week later and it's like, hey, is that offer still available? I'm like, yeah, but what I put the offer in at, not anything what we discussed more than that. Like, that's what it's going to be. And they're like, well, all right, yeah, I'll send you the executed offer. And it's like, all right, no problem. But that's kind of how it is right now. And it's going to have to keep going that way, because like you said, these prices, they're overinflated because of the interest rates. And that's the only thing that's killing it. If the interest rates were still low, I would say low as in like 4.5% to 5%. That's been like, right now. That's been like that since what, 2011, 2012 is it, I think I got my first house back in 2012 for, it was like 5.25%. And I think my credit score was like a 620, 630. And it was still 5.25%. And the house was like 130 and my mortgage was only like $800, but but it was, that's kind of how it is the prices kind of have to come back down and kind of meet with the rent price, because right now it's kind of cheaper to rent than it is to buy a house. It's way cheaper to rent,
Well, and the other thing is, that's the side that nobody really, at least the sellers, don't necessarily care for, is when we acquisition these properties, we now have the job of liquidating them and selling them, right? And so we sort of take on the burden of what they would have been dealing with. Okay, now we got this house, and now we're sort of trying to line up these buyers to make it a good deal for them too, you see. And now they're just as picky as any type of retail buyer also, even though they're investors and they've got the math down to a dollar, but they still are able to push the envelope a little bit because they can, because the markets are shifting. And so that's something that I believe that when some of the clients we talk to and they hear our offers, and they may go instinctively pull back kind of reaction, like, wait, why so little? They're not seeing necessarily the full picture. And maybe it is or it isn't our job to explain, but sometimes, you know, having that understanding that we're all in this boat together. Like you and I don't exist outside of the grand scale of the economy of the United States. We just can't, because this is all one big machine. And as one wheel starts kind of being a little, you know, weak, then all the other wheels are going to start to kind of shake, and the system is under stress. And so I think that's kind of where we're at. But I wanted to circle back with you because I found your questions pretty interesting. You're like, when we're making these cold calls, what, you know, how do you stay focused? You know,
Yeah,
what are some of the things that, yeah, like what goes into cold calling, right? Because my cold calling experience really starts from when I first moved to this country and I first got my work permit. I was so excited because there was no more like doing roofing jobs or like doing little mowing the lawn or like whatever I could under the table, right? And I was like, yay, I can make $12 an hour. It was in Colorado Springs, and it was a call center called Future Call. It was a conglomerate of like high school delinquents and all type of like jail characters and immigrants like me, right? And so we're sitting there making 11, 12 bucks an hour. It's buzzing like a high school. You got managers that are like younger than you, managing, quote unquote. Everybody's flirting with each other. It's like a crazy, just like imagine a high school that just graduated and all went to one building, got headsets on and started calling. That was my vibe, right? It's loud as hell. And mind you, on those cold calls back then, I could not ad lib anything. The minute I ad lib and go off the script, I'm stripped of my commission. I won't make the commission on the deal. And so what they trained us to do is to try to embody the script and make it yours as much as possible while trying to keep the person on the phone. And it was so moronic because a person on the phone might ask you like a normal human question, you know, but you're not supposed to deviate from the script. And so for me, whenever I think about people struggling with cold calls, I go, there's always another level to the misery, you know? You think cold calls suck? Try making a cold call that is scripted. And even when they ask you a question, you have to refer to like your rebuttals book or like rebuttals list. Because essentially any meaningful sales conversation has to have objections. For those that are out there that are not hearing the objections and it's just a bunch of yeses, that should be number one alarm for you. So when you're talking to a real person that's actually considering and listening to what you're saying, you should be expecting objection, right? And so with these calls, number one thing, I can go off script, which is great because now I can use my personality. Number two, I try to, before I sit down to make these calls, I try to elevate my mood as much as possible. Like all I have truly, and all we have as cold callers and marketers is our voice, you know, and how it comes across. One of the things, there is this book by The Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know the name exactly now, but it's about cold calling. It's about scripts. It's about, you know, that kind of stuff. It's a great book. I'll look up the title for you. You know, and it's just basically being able to come across and talk and keep their attention and keep them engaged. And so those are all big things. And having that, he says, for instance, look, when I used to work selling stocks, I could become anyone on the phone. That's one part that stuck out to me from the book. I would get on the phone and say, hey, I'm a 45-year-old, even though I'm 20, I have 2 kids. That's not something I'm saying everyone should do. But think of the type of energy that these people are putting out. They're saying, I'm a VP of X, and you're talking to the vice president, and here's what we're going to do. You're going to pick up this much stock at this much price. You know, I've got somebody on the line, you know, like they're able to create this whole world, you know, with just words and energy. And if they can do that, what we're doing is sort of on the smaller scale of that is obviously not even really a sales call. That's what I always say to you. It's more or less, I feel like it's more or less just a proposition. And it's a take it or leave it. It's like an opt in or opt out. And the minute you opt out, it ends. Like, no, I'm not interested. Okay, Never mind,
Yeah.
have a great day, because we've got hundreds of other leads to hit, and it's just a numbers game.
Yeah.
But if you treat it, you get on the phone and you're like, it's me or him or her, it's do or die, it's me or the customer. That is way too much pressure, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're working against them now at that point.
Yeah, so you should be just sitting back and saying, I have a service. It may not be for everybody, but it is for somebody. And
Yeah.
for that somebody, my voice, my energy, my everything needs to be consistent. When people start going off of their script, they start doing one call with a really great positive, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And the next call, they're kind of like, down in energy. You should be able to match or keep up the pace that you can over a long period of time, 4 to 5 hours if you're making those calls.
Yeah.
And you should be able to sound like you're excited. Like you yourself need to be excited, whether it's a yes or a no. You can be attached to the result of the call. You should be just as excited hanging up with them. And that's what a lot of times people get like, and that guy is happy. I just told him no. Awesome. Because for me, I'm happy about a no. That means I'm that much closer to a yes. Because
Yeah.
I get so many no's and it's okay. It really, you build a thick skin. It doesn't bother you anymore. You're just waiting for that yes or a maybe. Yes or a maybe, yes. That's when you start rolling up your sleeves and you sort of starting to probe and ask questions and pulling out the objections. You want to be the one talking about that versus them 3 days later saying, yeah, no, I know you called and I know I told you I'm interested, but like here, I have these reservations. You should be able to anticipate based on their responses, based on the pauses they take, based on their voice.
Yeah.
What are they feeling? And you should be able to have a rebuttal for that. That's smooth and not boxed. That's more or less organic. It's like me and you. If we talk about something, a subject, Papa, I'm on the call. We're talking about a subject. Then you say, well, no, I don't really, that's not like that. Let's say we're talking about a football game or anything else. I wouldn't be trying to pound my point of view into you. I would be saying, well, no, I get that, but like, check this out, right? And we're slowly exposing aspects of, hang on a second. What's up, son?
Yeah.
What do you need? Here, go please. Okay, let me make this call. Yeah, he needs a tape for his artwork. And so it should be sort of the same. Like when you hear a pushback, just like with your friends, you don't go, well, you're not my friend anymore. It's like, awesome, dude. You have this point of view. I have this point of view. If we keep communicating and we keep talking, we're going to get to the actual truth of it all. But if there's no communication or you get too defensive when you hear a no, you should almost be like a devil's advocate in a way. You should be like, you know what? I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from, and have an organic rebuttal, which really just creating conversation. Because if nothing else, you're going to be learning from that call, learning from that no, and taking that should be your goal, taking that to your next call. So I know this is a long-winded kind of intro into your question, but number one is energy and number one is mindset. And so when you have those key building blocks in place, then you're not as tied into what's going to happen on the phones because you really can't control it. What you can't control is your inner, mind state and your voice, how you project your voice, how you say certain things, and whether or not you ultimately come from the heart and if you're frank. Because one thing that people over centuries or millennia, whatever, have developed is the ability to feel the bullshit. We have it on like a genetic level. And I've been on calls where I have bullshitted people. I'll be honest with you. And almost instantly they hear it. It's like they just pull back right away. They're like, oh, no, man, but thanks for calling. All right, well, you have a good day. And they just shut down. Because you can't really fool people. People actually are pretty smart. They may be holding down a position in a corporate environment where they're in charge of hiring. They're in charge of loss prevention. They may be way better at picking up on crap than you are. And so having that open attitude and saying, look, we're transparent, check out our company. That's why having our website up and having all the information on there is key. Having your real phone number, being able to be reached, answer the phone, answer the text, all those things eventually build into this trust. And then he could say to his wife or to his family, look, I know we're letting you go for almost nothing, the house, but the positives are And he should be able to highlight that, or she, to their partner and say, look, we're going to be able to pack up. We're going to be able to move to whatever state where I maybe have a new job. We're going to be able to get the kids in school on time and not sit on market for 6 months and then still end up with an offer that's maybe 10K more than what we would have taken.
Yep.
So then this person comes off like they solved the problem, and we were part of that solution.
It's
And
like
so
that one
those are-
client. It's like that one client that we had where, we called him and he was in need. I went over there, met him, talked to him, checked out the property. There's some things that need to be fixed, but majority of it was like a handful of like cosmetic stuff, but you could just tell that he just didn't care about the property anymore. But he did say, due to COVID, his job slowed down. He was, he wasn't getting the hours that he needed. He wasn't making the commission that he needed. And he was looking, just to restart his life kind of thing. And that's what we were able to help him out with. It's like, okay, well, when do you want to close? Oh, you want to close in, 20 days? Cool. All right. Well, you're going to get, after, during the sale, you're going to get, $90,000. And he was like, oh, awesome. Like, he was ecstatic about getting that. He didn't care if he was losing money or anything. Like, he was ecstatic about, oh, I'm getting 90K. And they're saying, that they're going to do this. And we did what we said we, what we were going to do, what we bought it at. We didn't change our price or anything. And, we came in, did that, and then he was happy. Like, he was genuinely happy at the end. He's just like, yeah, like, thank you for helping me in this situation. Like, I was down, and, I'm going to go stay, don't worry about me. I'm going to go stay at, some short-term rentals here and there until I find a house, and I'm gonna start my life back over and buy a house later on in life. But I'm in a different part of my life now where this is what I need to do, blah blah blah. And
it kind of reminds me
great.
of like the situation. Oh, sorry.
I know, I'm just saying it worked out great. It was awesome. So,
yeah, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
Reminds me of when I first started dealing with FSBOs. And it's like, sure, you can sell it on your own,
Yeah.
but there's a benefit to hiring an agent. So it's kind of like that same dance, right? Because they look at 6% commissions and they're doing the math in their head real quick. And they're going, why am I going to give up thousands of dollars? It's sort of a similar situation here. You're going to do it because there's a pronounced benefit in having an agent work on your behalf, speed, knowledge of the market, knowledge of negotiations, correct pricing. That's one of the number one errors that most for sale by owners make. They don't appraise the property. They have very surface knowledge of the comps. And then a lot of times they're losing way more, whether they want to admit or not. They're losing way more margin, way more profits by not hiring an agent. But you can't just come out and just say, what's wrong with you, dummy? You should be hiring me, So
because
I
would always have like clients or you go on listing appointments are like, well, why don't I just sell my house on my own? Like, I would save money like by not paying you, not to be rude. I'm like, no, it's not being rude. I was like, we got to look at it this way. What do you do for your work? They would say, oh, I do this. Okay. Well, when do you have time to market that property? Well, after work, I could, I'll put it on Facebook. I'll do this. I'll put it on Zillow. Zillow puts it everywhere. Okay. Well, just let you know, like, do you have time to do open houses? Do you have time to market it all the time? Do you also have buyers in your pocket, or do you go to work and have, other colleagues that have other buyers that are willing to bring to the table? Like, do you have any of that? And they're just like, I just like, basically, I'm not arguing with them. I'm just telling them like, hey, like, here's the value, and you need to put these into consideration because I do this full time. You're trying to do it part-time, and and you doing it part-time is not going to benefit you at all. And it's like, okay, well, what do you think your house is worth? No, tell me. I'm like, well, it's actually worth this price. And they'll be like, oh wow, like I thought it was worth less. And it's like, no, see, like that's what I'm trying to tell you is like you have the expertise, and I could bring this to the table. I was like, who's gonna do your photos? Well, everyone owns an iPhone. Yeah, but haven't you looked online and saw those terrible houses with those photos that people take? I'm like, look, that's why I hire photographers, because I suck at photography too. Like, why would I'm a realtor, not a photographer. Like that's my profession.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, so I was like, look, you don't have to pay for a photographer. You don't have to pay for a marketing person. You don't have to pay for any of this stuff. That's what I'm here for. And my commission is what reimbursed me for everything that I put into it. My time, my money that I invest into it, my marketing, all that. So that's why I get paid what I get paid, is because I put that money up front. And
It's like doing your own divorce. You know, for
yeah,
some reason, very rarely it clicks for a person. You know, I could do my own divorce. You probably could. You know,
yeah,
it's
you're
just a
gonna get
matter of
taken to
filing the paperwork.
the
Hon, can you get this door for me, please?
you're gonna
And
get
then
taken.
the other thing is, you know, you could probably do your own like trust, but I recommend you hire somebody that knows what they're doing, knows what
Yeah.
they're talking about. You know, living trust and power of attorney or a will. For some reason, that's an automatic value add. Like, oh no, I need a professional. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, for that I need a professional.
Yeah.
But somehow the agents get this rap that, and I don't know where it happened, honestly. I don't know where the
I don't
people
know
get
where
this
it started.
idea that an agent just sits back, they put it on MLS, and boom, it's sold.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where that happens, but coming back to what we were talking about on the wholesaling realm, it's sort of the same thing. Okay, great. You want top dollar for this wholesale deal.
Yep.
You're going to have to fix it up and make it top dollar. Are you going to put that on your credit card? 20, 30K that it's going to take to get fixed? Most likely not.
Yeah.
Are you going to take out a loan and then gamble on the market going down? You probably won't. And so it's just a stalemate situation. You can win the argument, but you could lose
The battle.
a lot of time and money.
Yep.
I don't care to win the argument. You can win this
Yeah.
argument. Sure, you
Yeah.
can do it on
That's
your own.
pointless. Yeah.
That's okay. And this, I also learned something in sales when I was selling timeshare. There's this concept of takeaway, and you have kids, so you're gonna appreciate this because it's just like that with kids. If you come up to your kid, right, and you're like, look at this toy. It's an amazing toy. You'd
Yeah.
love to play with this toy. Look at the colors. Look at what it can do. And then it even goes in the water. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't even get wet. It's a great
Yep.
toy. You would love to play with it. But if you just like not do that, you know, in the case of a kid, but in the case of a lead, you don't keep pushing down you as their solution down
Yeah.
their throat. You just say, there is this service that exists. We happen to be part of it. It's not for everyone. And that's essentially the takeaway. Because in timeshare, it's the same way. It's like, look, going on vacation with your family and spending quality time isn't for everybody. It's for people that truly love and value that time with their family
Yeah.
and see the value in
Yeah.
passing it down to their kids in perpetuity, etc.
Yep.
And so they go, oh, well, I mean, I love my family.
Yeah.
You know, why isn't it for me?
I love traveling. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why wouldn't everyone want to do it? You know, and
Yeah,
they
like,
can
what's wrong with
themselves.
me? Yeah, like, why couldn't I do that? I love my wife. I love my kids. What, you know, not that figuratively, but it's hard to explain timeshare sales in just like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But that's one of the elements. You don't sit there and go, look at this amazing resort. Look at this amazing room. And look at this. And we have this. And it's 24 access and 24/7 access. And look at
Yeah,
the
'cause
gym.
people
And
care
you can
less about
exchange
that.
it anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
They go, get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm here for my gift. Let me just get my tickets to, you know, some show and
Yep.
and beat it. But if you kind of just go, this is the product. This is what it does. I'm not saying it's for you, but if it is for you, deciding on it today is going to be better than walking away, you know,
Yep.
because it's a same day sale business. So they've got that psychology down for the most part, you know. It's,
Yeah, that's kind of what happened when we went to Mexico. Like, that's how it exactly was. We met with the people and they told us, like, hey, look, like, you don't have to buy or anything. We'll give you, you know, free massages, this and that. We're like, all right, cool, yeah, let's do it, whatever. We already knew what the pitch and everything was going to be, but it was kind of cool seeing how they tried pitching us and how they got people. And I'm like, man, like that's you know, that's not for me, but they would just take you to the rooms like, hey, look, this is a different room, this is a different room. you know, there's different packages. This is whatever. Then you get down to the table to talk about money and say, all right, so not a lot of people, you know, this is what a lot of people do, but this is what not a lot of people do because they can't afford it. So then people start looking at that. Well, what are you talking about? I can afford that. That's nothing. It's like, well, okay, to make it easier, we could just break it down in payments. And then they would have a rebuttal for everything.
Yes.
Everything. So like I found a way to navigate it where they didn't have a rebuttal for it. They're like, you know, one of the things was like, yeah, this and that, it's better. It's one of the best investments ever. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, how's it a good investment? I was like, can I sell, you know, one of the things? Oh, no, we frown upon you actually being able to sell it. You're undercutting us. Okay, well, how is this an investment? I want to make a return on my money. Like, how can I make a good investment on this? And then they sat there and they're like, hold on. And then the big boss comes and he's like, so yeah, so they were telling you about the investments. Like, I could get you a better deal. I'm like, well, let me know. I was like, just let me know when I can start making money on it, and then I'll buy it. He sat there. All right, can you guys write him up and get him his credit? Have a good day, guys. And we were out of there. But it was just like some of the things. Then I just got tired of it. I was like, fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah,
that's what it is, though.
I used to sell for Marriott, and they have an amazing sales program, and so you're not even allowed to insinuate that's an investment. You know, that's like dirty tactics, because in essence, you're coming out of pocket, and then there is like HOA dues, right? That no matter what, every year they happen so that you could take care of the resort. And sure, you could try to rent out your weeks. You could rent them out and sort of maybe collect a little bit of that back. But where a lot of sales reps get it wrong is it's not a money investment. It's an investment in your family.
In your time,
because you will lose 100% of the time with a guy like you. If I sit across from you and your wife and I say, Josh, this makes financial sense, man. You're gonna break me down to the break pads.
Oh yeah.
But if I say, you're right, it actually doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And that's what I was waiting for them to like accept it and just say, you know what, you're right. But you know, if this isn't, you know, for your time, for your whatever it is, and let me go on my way, you know, I'd been happy. But I was curious, and like my wife was like, stop, because I love seeing people's pitches and I love getting like little things here and there. So I'll just keep on digging in and like see what kind of rebuttals they have. And then I'll like it's a game to me. So like she started getting like at first she's like, oh, okay, like I like this, and she started getting irritated. So all right, we gotta go. I'm like, all right, that's what it is. So
well, and that's when it goes wrong, right? Because we call it commission breath.
Yeah.
And so commission breath is a real thing. And just like when people pick up on the bullshit, they pick up on commission breath real fast. And so you need to, as hard as it is as a salesperson, your whole paycheck depends on the sale, mate. You know, you have to try to remove yourself and just do justice to the product and say, all right, maybe it doesn't make all of the financial sense, but this will guarantee you and her spending quality time together every year in the best of the resorts around the world. Isn't she worth it? You know, like there's a strategy of kind of like dividing and conquering in a couple.
Yeah.
It's pretty edgy, but it could work because you're essentially saying to the guy, you know, well, when you married her, did you just go find a ring at Mickey D's, or did you go and buy a diamond ring?
Yeah.
Well, why? I mean, it makes no financial sense. You could have put 10 grand into some stocks or investments, but you didn't. You made an emotional purchase, and that's what timeshare really is. And so if you dial in on how important is it for you to be with her every year, then you could get into the territory of, well, I can always just get a hotel. I don't need the timeshare. And then you could kind of argue the ins and outs of it.
Yep.
But you don't say, this is a great investment, because it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a way to guarantee, because like we own timeshare, and for us, if we don't go somewhere, we feel like, dude, we're paying for something we're not using. When are we going to use these weeks? Let's go to Disney, you know, let's go to Hawaii. Let's exchange it into some cool resort in Costa Rica. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have done it. Maybe at the time we want to go, the resort in Costa Rica is costing $500 a night, or especially Hawaii. You know, Hawaii, it's like people think they can just make it happen. It's that dream. It's like just procrastination. Oh, well, we'll do it on our anniversary. We'll do it for the kid's birthday. As soon as somebody graduates, we're game. But life is crazy, man. And unless you plan it, and that's what it really allows you to do. So I know we went on a little tangent with the timeshare, but the takeaway thing is really strong because
Yeah.
on these phone calls, you don't push it down their throat. You have a
No.
positive vibe, you describe the product, and then you got to back off and say, you've learned a little bit about us. We sort of know your situation. It may or may not be an option, but guess
Yeah.
what? No matter what you decide to do, I always try to lead with this. We're here for you, whether you need information, whether you need comps, whether you need some local resources on photography or handyman services. We're here to help.
Yeah.
And you can always leave on a good note. You can always make a
Oh, yeah.
friend, if not a customer.
And that's one thing that I because I used to do over the phone sales, and then I went and did in-person sales, which was selling cell phones. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I feel like I'm good at is I can basically, and my bosses always hated it because they're like, they'll come up right afterwards like, wait, why'd they leave? What, what's going on? Like, what was the problem? Is there something I could solve? I'm like, no, they'll be back. They're like, no, they won't be back. Like, everyone always
There are
says,
no be-backs.
and I'm like, look, I told them to leave, and they'd be like, what the hell? Like, why'd you tell them to leave? I'm like, no, like I told they were undecisive what kind of cell phone they wanted, because what would happen is if they come and return the cell phone, and then we would get charged back on our commissions and stuff like that. And or if they got it with a different sales rep, then that rep would get the cell, and it would go out of my name. It would be, it was a bunch of BS. But
Yeah.
I would make sure like that it does not return. So I would just tell people like, hey, this is what it is. And you know what? It sounds like you're not ready today. Like, and they're like, no, I'm ready. I'm like, no. It sounds like you're not ready because you keep flip-flopping between, this and this. Like, you want to take 5-10 minutes and really think about it, play with it, use it, call somebody, text somebody, like, and browse the internet, use the keyboard, just physically use it. And I could give you 10 minutes and go from there. And some people are like, you know what? I appreciate that. Yeah. Like, give us some time. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go step away. I'm going to the back, grab a drink really quick. I'll be right back. So I would slow play it, but it also gives the people, the trust. They start to trust you. They're like, oh wow, like, he's not here to sell me, he's here to help me. And then I come back, hey, did you have any questions? Oh, you did. What's your questions? And I'll go through it and say, okay, now are you ready? Do you have your final decision? Is that your final decision? They're like, yeah. And then I would never see them again. If I did see them again, they'd be like, hey, like, I'm here to pay my bill, whatever it is. And my sales, my return like percentage was always like very, very low because of that. And my sales were always very high. And people were like, well, how do you not have people return? I'm like, you've got to sell them the phone. Like, you got to explain things to them. You got to like do the process. That's kind of way I bring it into real estate is, it's like, okay, like, you want to sell your house, awesome, but why do you want to do it? Like, a lot of people are like, well, it sounds like you're trying to talk them out of it. It's like, no, I'm talking through with them, because
Right.
sometimes like people think about it and like, you know what, actually, I don't think right now is a good time. I'm like, hey, that's totally fine. And the funny thing is if I agree with them on that part of them not selling, it doesn't make me look hungry. It makes
Right.
me like build trust with them, because they're like, oh wow, like, he wants to sell this house, but he also understands me or understands my family. And you know what, I that's what I'm doing. And I do the same thing with buyers, and I'll have either buyers or sellers always give me a call back, because I'm very patient with them. Like, if I get home, like, I'm impatient. I'm like, fuck, man, like, why didn't they, like, they need to sell their house, or they need to find a house. But with them, that's where it's like, you know what, you got to be patient, and you got to be understanding. And that's what I bring to like real estate, is just, I'm very just understanding with people. And sometimes, I have to sometimes ask them, like, I'm very understanding, but at the same time, it's like, it's you gotta be on the same level as them, even if you don't.
Well, like you said, you're helping them talk through it. You're putting them in a driver's seat. They're driving the car. you may be just saying, hey, watch out for that turn over there,
Yeah.
watch out for this. You're still driving, but I'm just giving you a little bit of the lay of the land. And this is such a great point you brought up, because let's take you as a sales rep that sells phones, and then let's take that person that's like, it's do or die, mother effer. It's the today business, and if they walk, they're never coming back. I work with guys like that in the gym industry, because it's also retail, and it's very much same day incentives,
Very
right?
pushy. Like, I don't, and that's not me. Like, that's not my personality. It's not my style. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, Nick, like, just push them. Like, they said no, like, figure out why they said no. And then, oh, like, they said no because of this. Oh, figure out why. Like, no, like, you're shutting people down, and they will get very discouraged from you. Like, I don't want to deal with that guy. That guy is very pushy. Just, I don't like the way, people feel it,
Well, and you know what happens, like in arguments, they say there is no real winners in an argument.
Yeah,
And I believe that to be so true, because the minute you become argumentative, it doesn't matter. You could be Einstein spewing the facts of physics at them, and they'll be like, yeah, but you still suck.
Yeah, it's
And
like
I'm
fighting
not
with your
doing
wife.
just,
You'll never win.
huh?
It's
Right.
like fighting with your wife. You'll never win.
Yeah, you never win. So you might as well
Yeah.
try to think consensically, like
Yeah.
where's the middle ground where we can agree,
Yep.
And that's the same thing as like what we're doing is the middle ground is you have a problem, and
Yeah.
no, you don't have to solve it through us, but agree that there is a problem, and this could be a solution, And the other point you brought up is, imagine that other sales rep that's pushy, excuse me, but their quality of life. Because me and you are going to need to make these calls, not just today, not just tomorrow, but maybe for years or for months to come. What does that sales rep look like after a year that he's been battling every customer, versus somebody that's like, yes, I've lost 5% of walk-ins. Oh, I know, cardinal sin, but I have almost no returns. I have amazing referrals, something that the company didn't pay for, that's now walking through the door because I was nice to these people. Exactly. And I've built true rapport and true trust. Now their uncle's coming, their auntie's coming, their brother, their grand. And so quality of life for the sales rep, because it's so easy to burn out, especially with cold calling. It's so easy to burn out. And you and I see that. We sometimes bring on people to make calls, and they're like, F that. Okay.
No,
because I'm not doing that. It's too many no's. I'm getting just beat down. And it takes a bit of those adjustments that you and I are discussing. There is no superpower. I'm no super person, neither are you. We just put the right thoughts into our mind to animate what we do. Once we put the right psychology in here, then it projects out. It projects on the phone call, on any type of interaction. And since you want to be doing this more or less long-term and have some good referral return business, it serves you better as a salesperson, as a wholesaler, to have those good conversations, not to argue with somebody to the point where you're getting cussed out and asked to be put on the do not. People will find your website. People will find Better Business Bureau. They will go write a nasty review on some Yelp or wherever you are, on Google Business. They'll post it right in there. It's really worth it. And so when you're doing these calls, a takeaway is always a good attitude to have, I believe. But in terms of staying focused, lately, I like to have the music I like on. I listen to Easy Hits Radio from Florida. It happens to have some of the best mix of the music my parents listened to, I listened to as a kid and a young adolescent, and some of the modern, maybe 10 years ago kind of hits. But it kind of brings me back to, oh my God, I remember hearing that song when I used to live at such and such. Oh man, that song, my dad likes that song. My mom loves that song. And I'm in this upbeat mindset, not to mention coffee. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's another must. Okay. You got to have some coffee. Coffee's for closers. I think it's true. Have some coffee, have some good music, and just try to have a good time. Like, no matter what, you're on this phone, you're going to be making hundreds of calls. Like, what kind of day do you want to have at the end of the day? Do you have a day where you're frustrated, where you're beating your head against the wall? because there's days, Josh, sometimes I make 200 calls and it's nothing. It's crickets. I'm just leaving messages. I start to feel a little loopy in my head. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? But I know my job is to always have a great upbeat message that I leave, or when I get somebody on the phone, to engage with them, because I only have so much. They can always end the conversation. And the callback game nowadays is not the same. They'll just put you
No.
on a do not call. They block your phone, and you can be calling 100 times. You just go straight to voicemail, straight
Yep.
to voicemail. So now you've just lost that altogether. You've lost that opportunity. And marketing is the blood of our business. We're essentially professional marketers. We're
Yeah.
getting the word out.
Yeah. And that's a tough thing when it comes to wholesaling. And I think real estate in general is marketing, because like I was talking to one of my buddies for the past couple of days. He's looking to open up a donut shop, and he's like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, hey, like, have you thought about a slogan like this, or have you thought about a logo like this? And I've just been like just spewing off the top of my head. And he's like, holy shit, like those are some great ideas. Like, I think I'm gonna do that. And then I'm like, yeah. And I was like, marketing is fun. And I was like, man, real estate is hard. Like, you can do some things, but like there's only so much you could do with a house, or
Right.
market yourself, but there's only so much you could do about yourself. But if you have we don't technically have real products, like, we can't really get too fun with the house, where, with like donuts, there's plenty of things you could do.
That's
So
right.
I was like, dang, like, like real estate's taught me a lot about marketing. But yeah, it is true. It's like, making these cold calls, it's over the phone marketing.
Right.
Online is online marketing. There, and then mailers is, direct marketing. And there's so much marketing that goes into it. And, and a lot of people are marketed towards, especially when it comes to homes, every day. And I know I get several calls, and, so it's not easy, but it's at the same time, it's not hard. It's doing the calls. And I think that's like the best form of marketing, because if you get someone on the phone, it's like sometimes I'll get someone on the phone where they'll like, hey, they'll start with like weird things, or like, hey, how's your day? Or I'm so and so, from this company, how's your day going? I'm like, that's not going too bad. How about your day? And they're like, oh, not this now. I'm like, wait, where are you calling from? And they're sitting there having that conversation. And I kind of do the same thing. When I talk to people, I'm like, hey, I'm so and so. Is this Bob? And they're like, oh yeah, this is Bob. I'm like, hey Bob, like, I'll just sit there and try to have an organic conversation with them, rather than, hey, you're looking for an offer on your house? No, okay, bye. And just dial the next one. Like, no, I want to sit there, sound relaxed. I want to just sound, like it's real,
Yeah.
because it is real.
Well, and that's the thing, is you're not attached so much to the outcome. And that's what I think is the biggest thing, because they feel it. They're like, what, this guy is going to be all right if I say no, or if I say yes. So let me just relax also and listen now. Because if you're so thirsty about the yes answer, it's almost like a natural reaction. Like I said, with the kids, try pushing something onto your kids, oh, you should take piano, because, if you can play piano, or like guitar, like I play guitar, I tell my kids, I almost don't want to sell it. I'd be like, yeah, I can play a little bit. There's certain things I enjoy about being able to play the guitar. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Same with like jujitsu. I say, yeah, I do it. I like it for these reasons. You should try it if you want. I'll arrange for your lessons, and we'll see where it goes. Then there's sort of, okay, it's a give or take. I'm not being forced into it. And a lot of that psychology travels with us as we get older. And especially in these situations where you got to understand, we're not the only person calling them that's a wholesaler. A. B. They are also under stress financially. C. The bank and the mortgage company are on their butt. Okay. So you have to try to use your humility, understand that these people are in a stressful situation. And so you want to sound like the solution that's not going to be douchey, that's not going to compromise them even further into this misery. And it's going to be a branch they can grab and crawl out and stay whole. So those things are helpful to have in your head. And in terms of just calling through the flow, all I could say to those wholesalers out there is just let your fingers do the walking, the old school phrase, like just pound those numbers and whatever happens, happens. Each call is going to teach you something. You either win or you learn. It's like that. There's really no losing. If you didn't close, okay, learn from it, you know, good, learn from it. If you close, good. Now don't F it up. See it through. You know, don't drop it midway to the finish line. Try to see it all the way through. And try to have repeatable success. You know, if something worked, you should be taking notes. A lot of people think it just naturally happens. When I'm on fire, I say things differently. I have a way of phrasing things that are sharp. And now they're cutting right to the core. When I'm distracted, when I'm thinking about other things, when my mind's not there, I know I'm going to drop the ball because they're just not, I'm not crisp, you know? And so doing things like meditations, practice yoga, I obviously advocate for any type of physical fitness before work. Like if you just rolled out of bed, drink a cup of coffee, and now you're making calls, all right, but I think it's suboptimal. I think that you should be doing, you know, a little bit of meditating ideally. If not, then do something physical that allows you to, you know, through your body, fix your mind. You know, some people
or
do long
something to
distance running.
elevate your mood, you know, for the first part of it, you know. That's what I'll do sometimes. I'll either go to the gym or if I'm not going to the gym that day, I'll drop my son off, but I will be listening to like a funny podcast or something, you know, to get my mood going, to get, you know, going that. And then when I start making the calls, like, you know, I feel great rather than just waking up, rolling out of bed, drink coffee. And it's like, all right, here I go again. You know, and you got to get that your mood first and the mindset to be calm and happy, because people could feel your misery or your happiness or whatever it is that you're feeling over the phone. And I've always heard that like even smiling, they could smile through the phone, which is it's crazy, but it's so true. It's so true.
You tried it?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of like what I do already. Like when I talk, and I'll just, you know, because I get excited. Like if someone says yes, I get excited, but I don't get like overly excited. Like, oh my God, like you want to sell your house?
That's never happened before.
But I get excited. I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. Like, why do you want to sell? And like, I'll just get into my whole thing. Like, okay, awesome. Like, what's their condition like? Oh yeah, well, I've seen worse. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, like, oh, yeah, I'll go over there. I'll check it out. And then even in person, I'm like, this is not too bad. You know, I see some bad things, and you know, and people like, I guess, like that energy. It's like, okay, like cool, you know, and not rather than, you know, talking down about it. It's like, oh wow, this is pretty bad. You know, like, wow, you have mold everywhere. Wow. I should have wore a mask. Damn. You know, then people are like, I don't want to sell to this guy.
You know, I noticed too, you always want to be the guy or the gal that is a positive reinforcement, you know, because so easy to get into the negative. And people, they gravitate to that. You know, they would much rather, even when things are dire and they suck, right? You'd much rather have somebody that's positive and say, yeah, man, it's dark right now, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. Let's
exactly
push in. And people gravitate to that because, you know, their tendency themselves, that's where we get depression, right? Depression essentially is just you thinking bad thoughts over a prolonged period of time. And it eventually affects your chemical situation up here because you've been so stressed, so down. You haven't had anyone positive around. Everything you look at, the news, bad. Your friends are like, it's a catastrophe. Everything's bad. You don't have a single positive friend, which, you know, get some better friends, you know.
Right.
But if all you put in is negative, then don't expect something beautiful to blossom out of that turf. But if you've got a positive person in your life, like I know some guys I see and I smile when I see them. I don't even know why. Because like they're never be negative, dude. You know, it's like, you know what? At least I'll have a positive freaking exchange here. Even it could be about nothing. It could be about the weather, you know. But they're like, okay, man, you have a great day. It was good to see you. Right on. all right, I'd rather have 10 exchanges like that than to
Yeah.
sit with somebody and sulk, in the details of how much this recession sucks, and what are we gonna do? It's the end of the world, and you can't move from that. That's not like a non sequitur. That's a
Yeah.
non-starter.
Yeah.
You
It's like
can't get anywhere with that.
when I was in school, I had a teacher. I still remember to this day where he'd be like, look, no matter, he's like, it always starts with your day, your mood. And like if you spill your coffee in the morning and you say, you know what, my days it's I can already see it's gonna be a bad day. You know what? You're gonna have a bad day.
You're right.
But
Yeah.
if you spill your coffee in the morning, you're like, you know what? This isn't too bad. Like I could clean this up, get another cup of coffee, and go on through my day. And I've gravitated towards that, and I've seen the people that use that first mindset. It was like, oh, my day's just ruined, and their day is literally ruined because you say it's ruined. But if you just pick it up and like, you know what, like everything's gonna get better, everything will just start. My day just started, and it's gonna just get better from here, and it will, just because you
Yeah.
said it. It's crazy, but that's just the way people work. And seeing those happy people, if you're having a bad day or whatever it is, or talking to someone that's really positive, you're going to gravitate towards them, and you're going to be like, want to talk to them a little bit more, because it's infectious. Like wow, like this is awesome. Like, yeah, come over my house and come check it out. And then you
Yeah.
meet them, and they're the same type of person. You're like, oh wow, like you're very great to deal with. Like you're very, like I want to keep dealing with you. And
I know
that's,
you like Dave Chappelle, so it's like
oh
I
man,
remember his very first Chappelle show,
yeah,
the first two seasons, the classic. And boy, I mean, you want to get in a good mood, pull up your favorite comedian right before you do calls.
yeah,
Listen to their stand-up, listen to some jokes, have your greatest hits. The positive mindset isn't just gonna be bestowed on you. Okay.
yeah,
So it's a matter of creating it sometimes. And just like you, I like to listen to some jokes. I like to kind of get laughing and get going and get happy. And then you get on, and then you try to have a good day and try to finish strong, and then live to fight another day.
yeah,
You're not going to win every day,
yeah.
but you definitely won't win with the negative and expecting the worst.
Yep. And I think too, doing some of these calls, to start off with, you have to basically have some affirmations involved, where it's like I told you today or yesterday, like, hey, look, I'm gonna make some calls, and I'm gonna get at least one or a few out of this. Like I'm going to. I didn't say I
Yeah.
might, hey, I'm gonna try. No, no, no. I'm going to, because you're also putting that mindset in your head, where it's like,
No
once it
choice.
happens, it's like, yeah, you have no choice, and it will happen, and you kind of don't stop fighting until something pops. And when something pops, you're like, oh man, and then it gets addicting. You're like, oh, this is like, all right, let me see about the next one. And you go to the next one, it's like, no, all right, whatever, I'm still on a hot streak, let's keep going. And then you get another one, you're like, yeah, like, and you feel like you can't be stopped. And that's kind of like
Yeah.
the way you get kind of have to go towards it, is that. So
I watched that movie, Boss Baby, the first one with my kids. And,
yeah,
the little baby in there, he's kind of like Alec Baldwin's character, and he's like a
yeah,
super salesman. He runs the baby corp.
yeah,
And he says a lot of those sales idioms in one parts of the movie.
yeah, no, yeah,
And he says, whether you can or you can't, you're right.
yeah,
And as simple and idiotic maybe as it seems at first glance, that's truly it. If you're like, I'm going to try, well, that's all you're going to do is try. I don't know if I can. Okay. But if you claim it and you say, I'm going to.
yeah. I think
Okay.
that's from what's the guy's name? He's a famous philosopher. It's Tao Su or something like that.
Oh,
Where
The Art of War.
yeah, I think that's one of the quotes from there is, if you think you can't or you think you can, you're right.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get that one, where I'm like, what? But then once I went through life, I was like, oh, I get it. Like, all right, like, yeah,
Yeah.
So
Well, it's crazy how much of your belief really dictates the reality. And then you start sort of being able to some degree shape your reality. And
Yeah.
that's why this business isn't really for everybody, because we're taking literally nothing and we're trying to make something out of it. Essentially, what do we have? We have a name and a phone number and a possibility that somebody might be struggling financially.
Yep.
I mean, not much. If you really think about it, if you were to look at the odds, what are the odds of this thing even working? But it works because of our drive. It works because of our determination.
Well, it's any business though. Like you could actually go and buy McDonald's, but if you don't try and you just like try to bank off the name, yeah, you're gonna get some people, but you're not gonna get nothing. Like you can't really bank on that. You have to have a positive attitude. You know, and then that stems down to the staff and all that. Because if you walk into that McDonald's and everyone's in a bad mood, but like, hey, this is McDonald's, what do you want? You know, and you're just like, I'm not coming back to this one.
Yeah.
You know, that you'll lose your business quick. And it's just with any business, it's all about attitude, you know, all about, you know, every business, they can lose their business every day. That's basically the mindset every business owner has, is like, I could lose it today, but we'll wait till tomorrow. You know, I could do this, I could do this today, but I'll wait till tomorrow. You know, kind of thing. So
no, and that's the whole formula of the 20% getting 80% of the work done, right? Isn't that the Pareto distribution that everybody talks about? Is how come that 20% of the people, but really it's, I think, less, they get, I think it's more like 5 doing 95, more like that. But what's wrong? What's different with that 5%? And I think a lot of these things are ingrained in their philosophy, are ingrained in their actions. And it's not just believing it today, it's believing it every day and making a consistent effort to deliver on your beliefs. And I believe this market is going to test a lot of the wholesalers out there in that regard.
Yeah, I think this whole market, well, not even real estate related, or it could be real estate related, but just this economy in general, it's going to test out, a lot of these, everyone, where, like, 2008, it was what it was, but now we're in a territory where it's going to test a lot of businesses where can they stay sustainable with the prices rising every month, with, upcharging the customers more per month, and are the customers are going to go out there and buy? Because, if everything starts to get expensive, whatever product you're selling, they're going to either try to do it, or they're like, you know what, that was more of a want than a need. And they're going to start selling themselves out of, a lot of these products. And it's just what it is. It's gonna be tough, especially for all these businesses that started in 2020. So
that's what I like about our business too, Josh, is we are working with a need type situation. We already have a huge advantage. We have a really captive audience. It's just up to us to not piss them off and to have a viable solution that they can get behind. So
either in a down market or an up market, we'll still be in business. So that's but it's just working out all the kinks and getting all that all together, and it's just growing pains. That's what a business is, you'll get to a level where you're doing great, and then you start struggling. You're like, why am I struggling? Then you go start going through growing pains, because you're like, well, I'm struggling because I need more staff. Okay. And you try to find staff's not working out. You keep going through. Now you have staff. And it's like, all right, cool. And then you get back on this road. You're like, all right. And bam, something happened. I think I guess it's kind of like the Oregon Trail,
Like what?
Where Oregon Trail?
Oregon Trail. Oh, okay. I've never taken that.
No, you never,
No.
Yeah, because it's like one of those very old, like if you look into it, like the very old, like settlers back in the day, like where they would go. And I think the Oregon Trail led from all the way like mid to east, all the way to Oregon. And so just these settlers that are like, look, we're sitting here on the East Coast, and I heard it's great over there in San Francisco. There's a lot of gold, or I heard it's great over there in Oregon, or wherever it's at. Let's go, move over there and let's go settle over there. So they had to take their horses, their wagons, and their whole family and all this. And And there's just a lot of stuff that happened in between, which was, you know, people would get sick. And back then they didn't have any medicines. They're just either
Yeah.
fight it or die. And then,
Wow.
all right, see you. And then they would keep going. And someone would get, you know, bit by, you know, a rattlesnake, or someone would get mauled by a bear. All right, well, I guess we'll just have to keep going, you know. So, you know, or wheel
Yeah,
the wagon, you know. So there's always, you know, they would have, you know, these great, you know, times, and then they would also have these bad times. But the ultimate goal was to get there to settle and grow their family and grow their generations, you know. So that's kind of the way I kind of see a business is. It's
Yeah,
a
no,
long journey, because I think it took them like 6 to 8 months to get all the way over there, because there was no roads,
sure,
you know, it's just
sure.
straight terrain, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. And a lot of life is like that. It's the A to B, you know, and it's how you get there.
Yep.
You'll get there, but it's, you know, you need to have your wits about you. You need to control what you can't control.
Yep.
And one step at a time, you know, you scale that mountain. Because did they go through the Rockies to do that?
I'm not, I know that they went through, I think it was Wyoming and Montana, so they might have went around.
Okay, man,
So
what a
it was like this,
crazy.
it was like this long journey. What they could have probably, I don't know if they could have just cut through, but it was just like this
Yeah.
long, but and they all they had was compasses. So it's like, oh,
Wow.
are we going the right way? Like, oh, let's keep going west. Let's keep going west. Oh, we're gonna
Right.
head north now. And then they would get to a certain point. Oh, now head west. You know, so because there was no roads, there was no signs, nothing to get to the west. You know, and some of the people just thought the west was this mythical thing. It was just like, let's get to the west. You know, they would just hear
Yeah, and
rumors
now you
of
tell
like of 49ers just, you know, getting gold, and they're like, oh, that doesn't sound real. You know, so it'd be a crazy time to be in. Kind of cool, but kind of crazy.
yeah, no Uber there.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is like incrementally our lives just keep getting better, but it's such a tendency to live in our time and be fixated on it and find everything that's wrong with it.
Oh yeah.
But if you just look back to where humanity was, literally, you know,
Way
200
more
years
easy.
ago, less than that, that's nothing in the blink of
Yeah.
history, you know. But
Way more
that
easy.
was quite a different life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. You want to wrap this up?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. So we'll get back
Yeah.
to it next week.
Okay. It was good to see you.
Yeah, same here. Have a good one.
Okay. We'll check in next time.
All right.
All right.